A good day to you, my fellow brothers and sisters in wisdom. So, we are now on the eighth chapter of our subject, cognitive psychology, which is entitled Problem Solving and Creativity. Okay, so these are the questions that we will explore in this chapter. What are some key steps involved in solving problems? Next, what are the differences between problems that have a clear path to a solution versus problems that do not? Next, what are some of the obstacles and aids to problem solving? Next, how does expertise affect problem solving? And lastly, what is creativity and how can it be fostered? Okay, let's continue and start our discussion. So this would be our outline. So first, the problem solving cycle. Next are the types of problems. Under this is well-structured problems and ill-structured problems and the role of insight. And lastly, we have creativity. Okay, so before we start on our first topic, so how do you solve problems that arise in your relationships with other people? How do you solve the problems that you may encounter every day? Okay, so this chapter considers the process of solving problems as well as some of the hindrances and aids to problem solving. So an effort to overcome obstacles obstructing the path to a solution. So as a conclusion to this chapter, we discuss creativity too and its role in problem solving. Throughout the chapter, we will discuss how people make the mental leaps that leads them from having a set of givens to having a solution to a problem. Okay, now let's look first on the problem solving cycle. So the problem solving cycle includes problems identification, problem definition, strategy formulation, organization of information, allocation of resources, monitoring, and evaluation. Okay, so it is a process of overcoming obstacles, as we have said here, to answer a question or to a goal. Okay, so let us look first on the first part of problem solving cycle, which is the problem identification. So we have to recognize that we have a goal or that the solution we had in mind does not work. So also, we try to answer the question, do we actually have a problem? Next is problem definition and representation. Here, we have to define and represent the problem well enough to understand how to solve it. Also, we answer the question, what exactly is our problem? Third is strategy formulation. So we have to plan a strategy for solving the problem, which may involve the following. First is analysis, or breaking down the whole of complex problem into manageable elements. Next is synthesis. It's putting together various elements to arrange them into something useful. Third is divergent thinking. It's trying to generate a diverse assortment of possible alternative solution to a problem or creating alternate solutions. And lastly, we have convergent thinking to narrow down the multiple possibilities to converge on a single best answer. So here we try to answer the question, how can we solve the problem? Okay, so the fourth one under the problem solving cycle is the organization of the information. So what do we already know? Okay, so you have to organize the available information in a way that enables you to implement the strategy. You also organize the information strategically and finding a most suitable representation. We try to answer the question, how do the various pieces of information in the problem fit together? Okay, and lastly, number five, we have the resource allocation. This is the fifth cycle in the problem solving cycle. So under resource allocation, we have limited resources, time, money, equipment, and space. We also have to decide how much we want to invest into the problem solving. We try to answer the question, how much time, effort, money, etc. should I put into this problem? Is it worth it? Sixth is monitoring. So it is necessary to monitor the process of solving the problem to make sure that we are getting closer to the goal. Also, we need to reassess what we are doing to be able to compensate for possible flaws. We try to answer the question, am I on track as I proceed to solve the problem? And lastly, we have the evaluation. So after having those cycles and parts of the problem solving, we would now evaluate our solution after we have finished. So new problems can be recognized, the problem may be redefined, new strategies may come to light, and new resources may become available. So we will now answer the question, do I solve the problem correctly? Okay. So our emotions can influence how we implement the problem-solving cycle. So in groups with participants with high measured emotional intelligence, that is the ability to identify emotions in other and regulate emotion in oneself, emotional processing can positively influence problem solving. In mathematicians, the ability to regulate their emotional state is related to higher problem solving ability. Okay, let's proceed. Okay. We have the term we have what we call the term under the problem solving cycle incubation. Actually, incubation should be in the last part of problem solving, but I have included this under the cycle because incubation plays a special part. So what is incubation itself? So incubation is putting the problem aside for a while without consciously thinking of it or about it, which offers one way in which minimize the negative transfer. So problems will be processed subconsciously. So the benefits of incubation can be enhanced in two ways. So invest enough time in the problem initially, then allow sufficient time for incubation to permit the reorganization of information. Mind you, incubation is not avoiding. It is very different to avoiding. Incubation might be related to suppression or repression. But within the incubation process, no, we will invest enough time in the problem initially, but we will not create some solutions in order to solve it. But we will invest time to understand well the problem, no, to know the details and everything that is regarding to it. Again, under incubation, no, it involves taking a pause from the stages of problem solving. For example, no, you find suppose that you find that you are unable to solve a problem, so none of your strategies you can think seem to work. Try setting the problem aside for a while and let it incubate. No, similar to the eggs, we incubate. So during incubation, you must not consciously think about the problem. You do, however, allow for possibility that problem will be processed subconsciously. So some investigators of problem solving have been or have even asserted that incubation is an essential stage of the problem solving process. So others have failed to find experimental support for the phenomenon of incubation because meron din siyang negative impacts probably. So incubation, no, in the longer period, no, kapag sobra, no, even sa egg, yung mga egg na inilalagay natin sa incubator, kapag nasobrahin din sa incubation, masama rin yung effect. Similar to the use of incubation in problem solving, no? Too much incubation may make the problem more bigger and harder to solve. So we should use it wisely. Okay, I will proceed on the two types of problem. So, ganun pala, no? Meron pa palang types ang problem. Akala ko problem itself is general. So, we have the well-structured problems and the ill-structured problems. But we will now first identify and understand well-structured problems. So, well-structured problems has clear path to their solution, no? So, these problems are termed well-defined problems. So, for example, an example would be, how would you find an area of parallelogram, no? So, what is the formula of uh, the circle, no? So computers simulation of well-defined problems have examples like here, such as problem space. So the universe of all possible actions can be applied to a solving problem, rather. So algorithms. So we have algorithms in computer simulation. So these are sequences of operation that may be used recursively, repeatedly, and over again. So algorithms can be used in identifying problems in programs in computer. So if one of the algorithms or patterns of the codes embedded inside a computer may change or suddenly misalign according to its regular formation, there could be a problem. So algorithms must be uh, looked upon carefully. So, but there is a pattern, parang masasabi natin na there is a formula in order to solve it. No? Similar to geometry. So, unlike other math, geometry usually use formula, no? Para mas maintindihan natin and for us to better solve it. Okay, so let's proceed. So human DAO use heuristics. If you could remember in language, so heuristics are termed sometimes as mental shortcuts. So it is informal, intuitive, speculative strategies that sometimes lead to an effective solution and sometimes do not. No? Paano yun nangyayari? So there are instances that kapag we encounter problem, meron tayong possible solution, immediate solution. So this solution sometimes is very effective, but sometimes it creates a bigger problem. No? Or it cannot solve the problem at all. So if we store in long-term memory several simple heuristic that we can apply to a variety of problems, we can lessen the burden of our limited capacity working memory. So working memory is the memory at the moment that is processing all the information and processing all the problem solving uh, happenings at your current state, no? Here and now. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so heuristics has two types. Oh no, sorry, has different types, no? Different types of heuristics. Actually, these are four heuristics that may be used in solving the problems, solving problems. So first, we have what we call the means ends analysis. So analyze a problem by viewing the end, the goal to be sought, and then try to decrease the distance between the current position in problem space and the end goal in that space. Next type of heuristics rather, is moving forward. So, so in order to use this, you need to start at the beginning and try to solve the problem from the start to finish. So, isa-isa, no? Then, pangatlo. So, or rather next, uh, working backward. So, the problem solver start at the end and tries to work backward from there. So, nasa goal siya nakafocus, no? Tapos, doon siya nag-start papunta sa simula. So, ang working niya ay working backwards. So for example, siya ay nasa laro, no, mag-start siya sa mas mataas na level rather than starting on level 1. No? If you could remember the old family computer game Tank, no? Tanks rather, no? So ang goal nun ay matalo lahat ng kalaban na tank, no, in opposing team, no? But you can select, no, if you would want at a higher level, no? For example, gusto mo magsimula sa level 99 kasi para sa iyo so, super easy ang level 1. So parang ganoon 'yon. It's working backward. And next is generate and test. So the problem solver or an individual generates alternative courses of action, not necessarily in a systematic way, and then notices in turn whether each course of action will work. So magka-create siya ng different options. So kung ano option doon yung mas mag-work in order to solve the problem. For example, ikaw ay nagluluto, tapos medyo may something wrong sa lasa, no? Titignan mo kung ano yung kailangan mo i-adjust. Dadagdagan ba ng tubig? Dadagdagan ba ng asin, ng patis, no? Mag-generate and mag-test ka. And afterwards, no, makukuha mo yung hinahanap mong panlasa or it may worsen. Okay. So, under well-structured problems, we have what we call the isomorphic problems. So, what does it mean? So, their formal structure is the same and only their content differs. Sometimes, as in the case of our problems, no, or games rather. For example, yung Scrabble rather, no? So meron tayong jumbled words, no? Similar lang yung way ng pag-create natin ng words, pero iba-iba yung letters na nandoon, no? That is similar to isomorphic problem. The only problem is to create create the words, no? Or create many words as possible. Pero isipin din natin another problem that we need to get higher score, no? So we would be aware on the tiles that will give us higher score and the words that we have. So two sets of problem, high score and the words that we will create. Okay, next is problems of problem representation. So here, it is said that problem representation does matter. So ano nga ba ang key reason that some problems are easier to solve than others that are isomorphic to them? So a major determinant of the relative ease of solving problem is how the problem is represented. So napakalaga na nire-represent natin well, naintindihan natin siyang mabuti, no? Para malaman natin kung or yun yung mag-identify kung magkakaroon ba tayo ng relative ease para ma-solve yun or makakahanap ba tayo ng way para ma-solve yun. We need to represent it clearly so we need to understand it well. Okay. So now we would go to the second type of problem, which is called the ill-structured problems. So we will now look on the role of insight to these ill-structured problems. So what does it mean when it is an ill-structured problem? So under this ill-structured problem, so these are type of problems that there is no clear and readily available path to a solution. So it can be vague in some ways. So ill-structured problems do not have well-defined problem spaces, and the problem solvers have difficulty constructing appropriate mental representation for modeling these problems and their solution. Let's proceed. So let us look upon these two problems and let's try to solve them. So first problem, a woman who lived in a small town married 20 different men, and in that same town, all of them are still living, and she never divorced any of them, yet she broke no laws. So how could she do this? Okay, so next question. You have a loose black and brown socks in a drawer, mixed in a ratio of 5 black socks for every brown. So how many socks do you have to take out of the drawer to be assured of having a pair of the same color? Okay. Okay. So let's proceed here. So it's still under is ill-structured problems. So we would now look upon the role of insight. So insight is one of the technique that we can use in order to answer or solve the ill-structured problems. Insight is a distinctive and sometimes seemingly sudden understanding of the problem or a strategy that aids in solving the problem. Often, an insight involves reconceptualizing a problem or a strategy in a totally new way. Insight often involves detecting and combining relevant old and new information to gain a novel view of the problem or of its solution. Okay, so if we look upon the insight under the early Gestaltist view, so insight problems require problem solvers to perceive the problem as a whole. So we know Gestalt psychology, no? The sum is greater than its parts. So we would look on the problem on a bigger picture, not just on a specific part of the problem. So how about on the non-special view? Under insight, no? It is merely an extension of ordinary perceiving, recognizing, learning, and conceding. So we would not be, under the nothing special view, we would not be too critical, no? In looking upon a solution of an ill-structured problem. No? Titignan natin siya as an extension of ordinary perceiving, recognizing, and learning, and conceiving. So naparaming words nun, pero we would not treat it as something that is more important than other problems daw. So tingnan natin, saan ba mas tamang gamitin ng insight? No? In another view, which is the neo-gestaltist view, it is said here that insightful problems now, or problem solving, can be distinguished from non-insightful problem solving in two ways. First is when given routine problems to solve, problem solvers show remarkably accuracy in their ability to predict their own success in solving a problem. So anong ibig sabihin nitong mga routine problem? Ito yung problem na nagre-recur or nauulit lang. For example, sa pagkagising ninyo, so may one time na pagkagising ninyo sumasakit yung likod ninyo or sumasakit yung tiyan ninyo every time na gumigising. So ngayon, natuklasan nyo pala na kapag bago matulog at naglagay kayo ng medyas sa inyong mga paa, hindi sasakit yung tiyan ninyo kinaumagahan. So similar to that routine problem, no? Because of that insight, no? Tumaas na yung success ninyo at hindi na kayo umuulit na sumasakit yung tiyan nyo because you have already made a solution to that problem. So also, when given insight problems, problem solvers show poor ability to predict their own success prior to trying to solve the problem. So kapag wala pa tayong specific justification or reason kung bakit nangyari yung specific problem, for example, yung pagsakit ng tiyan natin, no, hindi pa natin alam, no? Ang sinasabi natin, ano kaya pumasok kayong lamig sa tiyan ko? Or may other reason kaya, no? Kaya sumakit yung tiyan ko? So, pwedeng magkakaroon pala kayo ng poor ability rather to predict your own success. Kasi hindi nyo pa alam yung possible na solution at hindi nyo pa alam kung ano yung possible problem. Okay, let's proceed. Now we would go on the last part, which is creativity. So what is creativity? Well, how can we define creativity? So Uh, Creativity as a single construct, it may unify the work of Leonardo da Vinci and Marie Curie, of Vincent van Gogh and Isaac Newton, Toni Morrison and Albert Einstein. So, how can we define that creativity as a single factor or construct? Okay. So, there may be about as many narrow definitions of creativity as there are people who think about creativity. So, however, most investigators in the field of creativity would broadly define creativity as the process of producing something that is both original and worthwhile. So, uh, creativity may come in many forms. So, it might be a theory, a dance, a chemical, a process of procedure, a story, a symphony, and almost everything else. Okay? Mhm. So creative individuals show creative productivity, producing invention, insightful discoveries, artistic works, revolutionary paradigms, etc. So creative individuals usually have creative lifestyles characterized by flexibility, non-stereotypical behaviors, and non-conforming attitudes. So remember that qualities, okay? So under creativity, let's just remember that it's how much you produce. So creative individuals though can come up with many different ways to solve problems. And they have what we call creative ways in solving their problems which is novel or original to them. Kaya nga meron nga mga invention, meron nga tayong mga artworks, no? Because of our creativity. Kaya meron tayong mga kanta, meron tayong music, no? So also, it's what you know. So, what distinguishes remarkably creative individual from less remarkable people is their expertise and commitment to their creative endeavor. So, creativity does not only or not or is not only shown, no, in one specific output. No, it can be many processes and many happenings before creating a very uh, potent output, no, on what expertise we are in. As we again could take note, no, it may come in many form, which is forms that we can even hardly imagine. For example, if you would look around you, you can see many works on crafts, no, of arts and things that is products or that are products of creativity of people. For example, the cell phone you are holding, no, the clothes that you are wearing, the windows that you are seeing, no, that is all product of creativity of individuals. Okay. Okay, so it's who you are. So the role of personality and motivation in creativity is very strong. Oh, actually, no, one work can be made different to other works even though you have the similar outputs because of the authors or the individual's creativity and motivation in doing that. No, for example, you have been tasked to create a project, no, in cognitive psychology, which is about taking a video of you doing self-care or showing how to do self-care. So you have many creative ways on how to do that. For example, you would be taking a video of yourself, as you wake up. No, it can be scripted, no, or you may do some different ways, no, in order to present or steps, no, on how to show or do self-care. Even though it's not personally to you, but if you think that it could be something that is worthwhile to watch and it could be something that could impact greatly other person, then it's a creativity product. So intrinsic motivation, such as the enjoyment of the creative process, is also essential to creativity, whereas extrinsic motivation, such as fame or fortune, for example, in project, the grades, no, actually may impede creativity. So we need to be motivated, no, in our goal, which is creating something in a creative way. So it is where you are. So external factors may also affect DAO to creativity and may contribute rather. So the context, the time, space, and the resources could affect greatly the creativity, but we should not be limited and be confined within the box. So we can have other ways, no, if we do not know how to create something, if we do not know how to edit something, if we do not know how to do something, we could ask other people that probably may know those things that you are not aware of. Okay, So this would end our problem solving chapter and creativity. Thank you and God bless.